Alright, before we get started, I want to say this right now. This review was actually supposed to come out last month, since the film came out 20 years ago, back in May of 2000. And I did record that original review. I was so passionate about it, I was excited, and then when I got to the final wrap-up, I realized that this was not plugged in. So you can imagine my disappointment to the fact that this mic was not plugged in during that original review. So it's plugged in. Without further ado, let's just start this review. Hey everyone, it's Alexander the Real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel, and this is my review for the now 20-year-old Battlefield Earth. But first, we need to actually fix some stuff before I can actually start this review. First of all, I don't like this poster. Gotta change it. Much better. Much better. I think that poster really sums up the 20-year legacy of this movie. And also, we gotta fix this camera, first of all, because it just doesn't feel right recording this review of Battlefield Earth in this angle. So let me just fix this for a quick second. There we go. It's probably more annoying to you guys, but I think it's completely in spirit with Battlefield Earth. So the plot to this movie is that it's the year 3000. The alien race known as the Cyclones pretty much invaded Earth 1,000 years in the past, and the battle only lasted for 9 minutes before the Cyclones pretty much had control of the planet. Cut to the year 3000, where humanity decides to launch a full-scale rebellion against the Cyclones and pretty much take the Earth back. Which sounds cool when you think about it, but no, it is very not cool at all. This is one of those very rare movies that comes out once in a while that is so infamous for how terrible it is that you kind of feel like you've already seen the movie just by hearing people talk about it. But let me just tell you something right now. Talking about Battlefield Earth and hearing how bad this movie is nothing compared to actually seeing this movie. Because holy crap is this crap. I don't know how else to phrase it, but this movie is just so bad that it's truly unbelievable. There is so much about Battlefield Earth that can be kind of dissected in terms of how terrible it is. And that's the first time I think anyone's ever used dissected and Battlefield Earth in the same sentence, because I don't mean dissected in terms of like a critical film study way. I mean dissected in terms of trying to figure out what went wrong with this movie. And even then, that's a task that I don't think a lot of people will be able to fulfill, because man, there's so much that's wrong with this movie. The best word that could describe this movie, just one single word, is ugly. This is hands down probably the most ugly movie ever in existence. From the acting, the plot, the special effects, and one of the most obvious points of ugliness in this movie is the cinematography, as I am presenting to you right now. One of the things you will hear from everyone who's seen this movie is that the entire movie is filmed at a Dutch angle. And that is really not an exaggeration at all. What the Dutch angle does, it kind of makes a scene more intense, but it just looks really distracting and it's just obnoxious. The first Thor movie used the Dutch angle a lot, and even though I like that movie quite a bit, every time that camera would do a Dutch angle, it just got so irritating, and I was just so relieved when the rest of the Thor movies did not have this trope. But at least it doesn't compare to this movie using a Dutch angle for every single frame. Cinematography-wise, this truly is an ugly movie. I mean, also, besides the Dutch angles, nothing is ever in center. Everything that's supposed to be in the center of the frame as well is over to the side, and it's just pure incompetence. Another thing that is truly baffling about this movie is the acting. You have a lot of recognizable and somewhat respected people in this movie, like Forrest Whitaker, Barry Pepper, and the most famous person in this movie is John Travolta, who is also a producer. We'll get to John Travolta a little later, but the acting from everyone else is just truly perplexing. We've seen all these actors be good. Like, I know Barry Pepper has been good in movies like Saving Private Ryan, True Grit from the Coen brothers, and 2019's Crawl. And then Forrest Whitaker, well, he's an Oscar winner, and he's appeared in several other great movies like Arrival, Rogue One, Black Panther, Lee Daniels' The Butler, and the movie that got him his Oscar, The Last King of Scotland. So you can't really blame these actors themselves for the bad performances because the direction is just so bad that nobody comes across looking good, especially the main lead of this movie, John Travolta. And look, I just said that you can't really blame these actors for how bad they are, but you could blame John Travolta for how bad he is, because he's not only the lead of this movie, but he is also a producer on this movie, and apparently he considers this his baby. Which, considering that he would later go on to do movies like Gotti and The Fanatic, you're not at all surprised that he's as terrible as he is here. But to be a producer on it and to pretty much still defend this movie to this day, it hurts me inside. It really hurts me that this actor who was in movies like Grease and Pulp Fiction beforehand would stoop to this embarrassing level. But then again, this movie does have a Scientology angle to it, and John Travolta, next to Tom Cruise, is one of the biggest celebrity Scientologists out there. And I'm not even going to try to explain the Scientology angle of this movie because I don't understand it, first of all, and even if I did, I do not think it would help this movie in the slightest. Who knows? It might actually make this movie worse if I understood the Scientology angle to it. And the plot is just total lunacy. Not so much that it doesn't make sense, but when you try to make sense of this plot, it just falls apart completely. And you realize that the Cyclones are the biggest bunch of idiots in the entire galaxy. Well, first of all, they look ugly. They look like a Klingon cosplay that went horribly wrong, and they have these oversized boots, which are supposed to make the actors playing the Cyclones look bigger than the actors who are just the humans. But it's not a very convincing effect at all, and their fake rubber hairy hands are just so distracting, and it's no secret that these look as fake as they are. Like, you watch them and go, yeah, that doesn't look real at all. Like, no, that does not look convincing. But getting back into how stupid this race is, they defeated humanity in 9 minutes. And it seems like this race has never, ever in that 1,000 years bothered to learn about Earth's history or how humans function. Like, they think that dogs sitting in cars means that they're the superior race and that humans are just chauffeuring them around. They think that a human, or I'm sorry, as they call them, man animals, favorite food is rats. One of their biggest operations on Earth is to mine gold, and yet they literally know nothing about Fort Knox. And speaking of the gold, there is one very important thing that I forgot to mention in that original recording. After Barry Pepper and the rest of the humans are instructed by the Cyclones to mine gold, they head over to Fort Knox to bring out all these bars of gold and deliver them to John Travolta's character. And to give you an idea of how stupid John Travolta's character is, when he gets the bars of gold, he asks, why is it in bars, rather than how is it in bars, because smelting gold and turning them into bars is a long process, and if these Cyclones had studied anything about human history or how the Earth functions, then they could have realized that these bars of gold meant that something was very suspicious. So again, just to elaborate, when the humans deliver the gold to John Travolta's character, he doesn't ask, how are these in bars? He asks, why? If that scene right there isn't evidence to how stupid this alien race is and how illogical this movie's writing is, then I don't know what is. You are baffled by the idea that these idiots took over Earth and ruled it for 1,000 years. It's truly remarkable at how terrible this movie is. But as terrible as Battlefield Earth is, this is one of those movies where you watch it, you are amazed at how terrible it is, but you are so glad that you watched it. This is 2000's equivalent of Cats or Showgirls. It's one of those movies that is so terrible and so famous for how terrible it is that you have to see it and it will not disappoint. There are so many elements about this movie that you could just admire because of how crappy it is. And it's got some absolutely fall out of your seat laughing lines. Not in the intentional fashion, but truly in the unintentional fashion. Has anyone ever seen one? A demon? A monster? A beast? Yeah! We've decided to keep you here for another 50 cycles. With endless options for renewal, with endless options for renewal, with endless options for renewal. Ha 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 ha! Or my favorite line throughout this entire movie, and maybe my favorite line in any bad movie ever made. Do you want lunch? I mean, there is so much joy you can get out of this movie, but I would say it's one of those movies, again, like Cats, and especially like The Room, where if you watch this on your own, you're probably going to lose your mind and maybe be depressed, because it was a struggle to watch this movie. But if you see it with the right crowd, with all of your friends, beer pot, whether it's through a Zoom meeting, or if everything's back to normal within the next few years, together in the same room, then you will laugh your ass off at how terrible it is. Like, it is a fantastic movie experience with friends. But if I'm going to be totally honest, in terms of like filmmaking or an actual good movie with good story and characters, this is as bad as it could get. Like, this is truly a movie where you have to say you are so incompetent that you have to burn in hell. Like, this is a movie that should be put up on a placard in Hollywood every once in a while, just as a reminder to never do something like this again. Because I gotta be totally honest with you, when this movie was done, I thought to myself, I kind of miss Transformers Revenge of the Fallen. And I have been on record on this channel multiple times in saying that that is my nemesis film. Okay. Hold on, guys. Cannot even believe I'm about to say the things I'm about to say, but as terrible as Transformers Revenge of the Fallen is, as much as that movie made me so angry, more than any other movie I'd ever seen, there are at least some good things about it that are not backhanded compliments. Some of the CGI and action is pretty cool. The score is fantastic. And even though Transformers 2 itself is an ugly movie as well, at least it is shot competently. Well, for most of it. Okay, half of it. The point is, it's more competently made than Battlefield Earth. And also, the biggest crime that Battlefield Earth commits, and why I would rather watch a 2.5-hour mess over this movie, is that Battlefield Earth feels like it's 3 hours long, and it's not even 2 hours long. It's about, I think, 1 hour and 57 minutes. For a movie to be under 2 hours but feel like 3, that is a true accomplishment in its own way. And yeah, Battlefield Earth has taken over Transformers' slot as my least favorite movie of all time. Just based on pure incompetence. Because again, there are elements of Transformers Revenge of the Fallen that I can rewatch and actually enjoy without making fun of it. Oh, and the last thing I'll say that is a true testament to how terrible this movie is and how incompetent it is that the studio that produced this movie, Franchise Pictures, budgeted this movie at $73 million. But apparently that budget was just a number they gave out to scam investors, and apparently the FBI eventually got involved with the situation to where the budget of this movie was actually exaggerated, and they just added an additional $31 million. So that $73 million budget you see for Battlefield Earth on Wikipedia, nope, it cost $42 million to make. What a legacy, guys. What a legacy. And there you go. That's my review for Battlefield Earth. Now, I'm going to finally get out of this Dutch angle because I'm sure you are annoyed by it, and it is really not a professional look. So, 1 second. There we go. Much better. Now I want to know what you guys think about Battlefield Earth. If you've seen it, what'd you think? Do you think it truly is one of the very worst movies ever made 20 years later? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed this review. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, leave a comment, support my Patreon page, follow me on social media, and until then, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there is only one.